The Boston Police Department tweeted out last night, "Captured. The hunt is over. The search is done. The terror is over. And justice has won. Suspect in custody." We know law enforcement worked tirelessly to bring this to an end. Johar will have plenty of questions to answer in the coming days. Investigators want to know why this happened. Were there any others involved? And is the attack in Boston part of a bigger plan? And the legal side brings up plenty of questions, too, including a loophole law enforcement will be using when they question the suspect. Joining us this morning to talk about this, Assistant State Attorney Felix Vega. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Kristen.
I know we woke you up bright and early this morning.
Always a pleasure to come in.
We appreciate it. Well, you know, we were kind of surprised when we heard this. The Justice Department says they won't read Johar TSARNAEV his Miranda rights. What is that about?
It's a very limited exception they have to the Miranda rights issue in this case, and also this goes back to 1984 when the Supreme Court carved out this public safety exception for the Miranda, for your Miranda rights and also for police. And we can take a look at what it really focuses on as two key elements. The exception is not to be analyzed in light of the subjective motive of the questioner, in other words, law enforcement, but rather from the objective perspective of the presence of the public danger. So we're looking at the broader picture of what is the danger to the public, is there an imminent danger to the public, and does that outweigh the right of a suspect to be read his Miranda rights in these imminent types of situations. There's a lot of case law on this that goes back to 1984, like I said, and basically the Supreme Court said that the public's rights are not outweighed by the defendant's rights in certain situations or the officer's rights to safety as well. So it's very limited to these types of cases where you're looking for a gun, where you're looking for explosives. They're going to want to know, is there a broader conspiracy out there? Are there more bombs or weapons still in the area? And then the court's going to have to look at this later on and say, was this outweighed by Mr. TSARNAEV's rights to be have his rights read to him, or was the public safety still imminent at that point in Boston and also in Watertown?
And that's important because of what he says. When his rights aren't read, we want all of those things, prosecutors want all of those things to be counted.
You want all those statements to come into evidence, and also if he makes any statements that leads to other evidence that may be still out there, you don't want to run the risk of possibly losing not only the statements, but also the evidence that the police may not have found.
Now, tell us this, will they be treating him, do you think, the same way Al-Qaeda terror suspects would be treated overseas? It's
an interesting question. I think John McCain was the first one that brought this up yesterday, whether or not they want to treat him as an enemy combatant. And it's a whole different line of cases and law that they have as far as terror suspects are concerned. But then if you run into all the risks that we've seen over the years with treating the terror suspect, what courts do they go to, where are they housed? And it's really kind of a neater, safer way that they brought in the U.S. attorney already to start prosecuting the case and leave the court in the leave the case in the federal system for the time being. And you also have the safeguards of the process, and there's no really second guessing in the end.
What charges? Do we know what charges that he'll be facing?
We don't know the charges exactly yet, but you have to remember there are 3 crime scenes that we're looking at. You have one at Boylston Street where the finish line happened, where the actual bombings happened. You have the MIT crime scene where the police officer Sean Collier was killed. You have that carjacking that happened also Thursday night. You're looking at right now at a minimum about 176 counts of attempted murder that TSARNAEV would face for the people that were injured. You have 4 counts of capital murder for the people that were actually killed. You're looking at also various terrorism counts that the feds are going to put on him in the end. We haven't seen the official complaint. I guarantee you that's what they've been working on since 8:45 last night and on into the wee hours of the morning. Whether or not he goes to court today or possibly more likely on Monday, we'll get a broader picture when the complaint actually comes out.
And it really seemed to me like law enforcement wanted to take him alive so that they can, the justice system can do what it's supposed to do.
And it was a scary situation because these 2 guys were so off the radar that they never envisioned not only that it would be people from Chechnya, that they were, one of them was an American citizen, but also you have to look at the role that social media played in this case as well. Very valuable that the law enforcement went to the public and said, hey, send us your video, send us your pictures. And the interesting thing about that is it really did work, because we had those grainy surveillance photos that were showing of the 2 suspects, but then you had those pictures like Mr. Green from Jacksonville who snapped a picture of the suspect running away. And so you're going to have to see down the line whether or not the prosecutors had to call all those people into court that submitted all that video evidence and photos to authenticate them. So it's a very different situation. It brings a whole new meaning to the term eyewitness when you have a case like this.
It sure does. It just shows you how things have changed with social media.
Definitely. And it's a very good thing, not only with social media, but also for the media itself to be involved and the cooperation between law enforcement and the media in this case as well.
Okay, thank you, Assistant State Attorney
Felix
Vega.
KRISTIN.
We appreciate it. We'll be right back.